It's a atmospheric river.
That's what I heard.
Oh, by the way, I saw on Twitter that Sentinels is looking for a performance coach. So I'm gonna write to them, but you
I
should
sent a
also
message in. Yeah.
nice. And like that's really interesting. They tagged a lot of other performance coaches. Like I didn't know there were so many of us.
Uh, there's a lot of people tagged there. I think the only ones that are tagged that have experience are Mr. G and Jared. I
Yeah.
think the rest of them don't have experience, and if a tier one team wants to flip it on someone that doesn't have experience, then that's fine too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be yeah, I'll send him a message too. All right. Okay. So we're live. We are chilling. Um, I guess we could. I mean, you can hear me fine. I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
all good.
Let me push the record button. It's really fun too. Like I just like to start to stream and then like we like chill out for a little bit and then we actually start recording and then I chop it up. So the way that I do this is like okay, so I kind of like before, but now I'm using a different program to edit, so it's not like it doesn't take all day, thank God. So what I'm gonna do is I'm streaming it for everyone to watch in and like be voyeurs in our conversation. But this is just for me. I'm gonna record it and then I'm going to chop it up for later and then post it if that's chill.
Yeah, sound bites, taken out of context.
Absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you know exactly what I'm doing. So that's consent, right? You guys all heard that was consent.
I'm consenting.
Grey Bears, what's good? What's good, baby? What's good? Thanks for joining the stream. All right, so welcome, people. What's good, gamers? My name is Dr. Ryan Terrell, Psych Sensei. Welcome to QueueUP, and today I'm queuing up with the knowledgeable and powerful Robert Yip. Robert, welcome to the stream, baby. Thanks for coming and talking with me, even though we were fighting tech issues and computers on the fritz, but we made it here, dude.
Yeah, it's what is it? Atmospheric river situation that's affecting PCs from turning on and volume from being heard.
Yep. But hopefully I sound crispy, and I guess like chat. Let me know how I sound if it's rough. Let me know. But if not, too bad. I'm doing my best. All right, so Robert, dude. Okay, give the people a little bit. Like, who are you? How long have you been in the industry? How'd you get here? Why esports, man?
Oh God, this is like the most frequently asked question. I should just like link to a Google Drive that has a
Just bring up
video
your
explaining
script.
it.
Hello, my name is
Yeah,
Robert.
yeah. Previously, prior to esports, working in traditional sports as a personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach, working in rugby, soccer, athletics, Gaelic games. My friend tried to convince me to get into esports around 2010. I was a naysayer. I love video games, but I was a naysayer. I was like, I'm okay, I'm fine. So he kept on sending me like VOD links or links to like StarCraft tournaments. He's like, check it out, check it out, check it out. Also, download StarCraft. And I was like, I'm okay. One game man for the rest of my life. And when I did watch it, I was like, oh, it's interesting. Like there's a lot of parallels between esports and traditional sports in the mental realm. So I watched a bit more, literally read every interview, article, watched every like talk show I could find until I felt like I think I know what's going on here. That was a good 6 months of constant digesting of information and content. And then I graduated my master's in sport and exercise psychology 2011. So I reached out to a few teams, and then TL got back to me. Then I started working with some TL players, StarCraft players, Dota, Smash, etc. So between 2011 and 2015, I was working in esports. Working for free, accruing knowledge, gathering a lot of experience. Back then, it was interesting because there weren't like performance coaches. The name wasn't even around back then. So I'd be like, hey, you should drink some water. And they're like, oh my God, this guy's a genius. Like, he's crazy. I was Huberman before Huberman. And in the beginning, it was easy because like players would, be looking for kind of any way to improve, especially like individual athletes. We can talk about that later on the stream as well. But 2015 in summer, I worked at Origin and I was in LEC in Europe, and then or EU LCS as it was back then. And then I did a presentation about periodization in esports. And in the audience was a young Noah Winston who was going to buy into the NA LCS franchise for Immortals. And I talked with him, I talked to the coach, and then he was like, "Hey, do you want to come to LA and work?" And being from a small town in Ireland, I was like, "Sure." There was a lot of permanent atmospheric river going on in Ireland for my life, so I was like looking out the window as he called me on the phone and looking out, pulling back the curtains, and it's like pouring rain. It's like, yeah, I'll go to LA, close the curtain again. And then I've been working in League of Legends and other games as well, like Valorant, Counter Strike, Overwatch, CS:GO, Wild Rift as well. And I think that since then, it's like what 8 years or so. I've done like the 4.5 years in a team house with a team. I've done the working from a facility. We've done the whole doing esports through COVID.
Hmm.
So from 2011 till now, it's been quite a journey. It's been quite a long ride, but a lot of experience and learning along the way. Um, and like I said, back in the very, very beginning, it was so new, and now there's so much research and science and different perspectives. Like there are people working as performance coaches, like from wildly different backgrounds, like from counseling to sports management to business psychology, and I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really cool that you. Honestly, Robert, I think like when I started, got really interested in esports or try to apply like psychology in esports, like you were actually one of the first people that I like really did like looked at your stuff. I like looked at all the things that you were doing. So it's really cool to like even see like I'd say like you're probably one of the pioneers of esports psychology or working with players. So I think what's really interesting, like what have you seen like change over the years with I guess approach to performance or how to train athletes and all that kind of stuff.
Mm, good question. I think it's like back in the beginning was like cavemen kind of like trying to create fire, right? Like just trying to see what works because back then it was like, well, all the Asian teams are better and they work harder, so just copy them. And then today it's also the same. Asian teams are better, they work harder, so copy them. So not much has changed regarding that. I think a lot of what's changed is your average coach and your average player understands a lot more about performance and the different variables that can cause an effect. I think their understanding of them and how to utilize them is that could do some work. So they kind of just follow like protocols without understanding why. So they're like, well,
Mm.
Huberman said 90 minutes before you drink your coffee, it's best. So I don't drink my coffee for 90 minutes upon waking. And they'll talk about the reasons why sleep is important, but they might not understand how to adjust the sleep protocol based on early start, late start, time. I was going to say time travel, but changing time zones if you're going to, let's say, a tournament abroad, for example. They don't really know how to adjust that based off of their specific situations. They kind of see like, well, this team does this, or this player does this, or this podcast said this, so I'll just copy it, and that will be enough, right? And I think that from the beginning, people didn't know, and now they have a really good understanding, enough to the point where they maybe feel like that they can kind of copy and paste things from successful people, and then it's like this will work for me. And I think the real enjoyment or joy at is like working with an individual player or a coach and trying to find the thing that works for them because it's like breathing exercises, for example, right? Everyone's got their favorite, but there's so many different ones to choose from. You don't just copy, okay, box breathing for everybody, right? Let's find the one that works best with you and the schedule that you're on, the lifestyle that you have. If you need it to be guided versus if it's something you can do by yourself, like it's all very individualistic.
Yeah. Okay. So what I really liked about what you're saying is basically like it's not just copying, but it's understanding like the purpose of why you're doing this or like why the system works or what system works best for you. Because I think I was actually having this like conversation or this thought of like, all right, so I know that you're not from America, like you didn't get educated here, right? Like you had a better education back in the UK, 100%. So
Cheaper. I wouldn't say better, but definitely cheaper. In the UK, I'm originally from Ireland, but yes.
So there was this thing I think in the early 2000s with George Bush. I think he really put a stamp on America's like education system with like No Child Left Behind, and I guess that whole thing was about like testing and making sure like we're keeping up with everybody else in reading and math and stuff like that. And so they really like push standardized testing, and so it's almost as if like. Um, they were really focused on the results of these tests to show if the kids were improving. But I think one of the biggest disservices now that we're seeing, at least from my perception now, is that like because they taught to a test or because they taught to this outcome, they didn't really teach the process of like how to learn or like what to look for in your like growing as a critical thinker instead of like, okay, you got an A, good, next. And what you're saying is kind of reminiscent of that, of like, oh, they're doing that, let's copy that answer to get that result. But how have you seen like people train critical thinking, or what do you think the level of critical thinking is out there for, I guess, current gamers or pros?
I think it's still very outcome based, right? Where let's give them a protocol for something for sleep or recovery, and then they do it, and then they lose a game or they lose a series, and then they equate the process or the protocol with the failure. So we need to do something different. There's also the novelty bias of, well, something new must be better because it's newer, right? When in actual fact, a lot of the Korean approach to problem solving is like very simplistic. So I've got like two anecdotal. So once back in, I think it was like 2015, I think CLG were playing MSI and they were playing against T1 at the time, so it would have been SKT. And like their bans were just, they just banned the three signature champs of the players. There was like Aframu, Bard, Stixay, might have been Caitlyn. Like they just banned that. Like it's like, okay, banned our comfort. Makes sense, pretty easy. And more recently, like you see, let's say Faker and Chovy going to MSI or going to, I think it was MSI again, where they weren't playing solo queue and people were like, oh, they're not playing solo queue, what's going on? And they said in interviews like, yeah, our condition wasn't that great. We just wanted to focus on recovery. So a lot of the Korean approaches are, oh, you're tired, go sleep. You're not playing very well, go play solo queue. You know, your condition's not well, then fix your condition. Right?
Well, but in
It's like
China, they
very
just play though, Robert. Chill, man. What are you talking about?
apparently so. Like it's like if you're sick, well, go get better, do what you have to do, right? And I think that it's less of a simple approach and more of a let's find the correct solution for the problem at hand. Whereas I think that a lot of players tend to not be solving for the exact problem that's in front of them. They're just doing things, and I think that the whole grinding, grinding, grinding. I always use the analogy of like Steph Curry. The reason Steph Curry can go and fire off 1,000 3-4 shots is that his technique is already perfect or close to perfect. So he's reinforcing good habits.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going into solo queue and you're spamming games and your technique isn't perfect or it isn't good or there's a redundancies in decision making, you're reinforcing bad habits. So I will allow Canyon and Showmaker or Chovy to go play a lot of solo queue because I know they're getting good reps in. Whereas Western players like playing, yeah, you're going to improve usually or hopefully through some sort of passive osmosis, right? Playing a lot of the game, and hopefully I pick up the subtle tells and patterns to get better. But more often than not, you are just trying to repeat, especially in solo queue, the patterns that will give you the LP. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's still a big difference between solo queue and comp, right? So
Absolutely.
you're just basically reinforcing the solo queue habits of, well, I can invade here and I won't be punished for it, and I'll get LP because it's really good for me. But then you go to play competitive, and it's like you invade and then,
Get punished, yeah.
you get punished. And I think it's like worth trying to understand the difference between the game modes and trying to improve accordingly, and that they are different. And I think that I always kind of view improvement as like cyclical, where you are thinking about the game and you're like, okay, I have a decent understanding. Then you grind the game to practice it, like stress test it. And then afterwards, it's like, okay, let's review, let's debrief, let's get all the findings. And then you adjust your schema again. And then you go back into the game. So it's the more times you can go through this cycle, the faster you can do it, the better, rather than someone saying, I'm going to Korea to play solo queue for 3 months and grind. It's like, all right, you're going to be stuck in that 1/3 of the cycle for 3 months and you're going to improve. You will passively, osmosis, etc. But it won't be as fast or not nearly as fast as if you were actually going through this cycle.
Dude, you said a lot of things. I think I want to see the first thing of like, you have to understand the game mode that you're playing. So many times I find players saying like, "Oh, solo queue's the game," but that's just be like saying like, "Oh, I go to 24-hour fitness and pay to pick a basketball. That's NBA." It's like
Yeah.
that's a version of the game. You are playing quote unquote basketball. You are bouncing a ball, and there's a hoop, and there's people there, but that's not competitive basketball. But if you're like, "No, I need to hit rank 1, and then I'm gonna go pro," it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, if you do hit rank 1 on the ladder, that's kind of like a nice piece of your resume to show everyone that you can push buttons or that you know how to play in that environment. But when they get to actual like the show, it's like, oh, now you have to do communication. Now you have to do being a good teammate. Now you have to do all the other things in this team-based game at this level to continue to be a pro, not just, yeah, I made it.
Yeah, I've seen that before with players coming up, right? And you have as well. And I think that it's. I'd love to get your perspective on it, right? So from a like a confidence and like this is who I am perspective, the ability to have confidence in your experiences, even if they're solo queue experiences, but also the I guess understanding to be like I'm also a rookie, so I should allow myself to let go of certain ideas that I have about how the game should be played or what should happen because competitive 5v5 with communication is different. And I think that's hard for players to do because as soon as you let something go, you lose a part of yourself that you believed was this was correct because it gave me so much success in your previous experience, aka solo queue in the past. And I think that it's really hard to find that balance between, oh, I'm just an open book as a rookie, like just tell me what to do, and then being like just kind of being like a bot in the game where you don't really have a sense of what's going on. And there are exceptions to the rule, right? There are players who are 18, 19 that have a lot of competitive success. Then there are guys who are 18, 19 just coming out of fresh solo queue. And even though they're the same biological age, their their experiential age is so vastly different. How
I,
would you get someone from how would you boost their experience to get from where they are to where they need to be the fastest without breaking them as a competitor?
that's a really good question. I think, like, even if that, the thing I was thinking about is like, the first word that came to my head was like ego and like sense of
Mm-hmm.
self, right? Because you are talking about like, um, what gives them confidence, who they were when they got to the certain level, and then what do they do it now. I think it's going to be really, really important to highlight for that player. Yeah, you're still a good player. You know the skills and you have systems or protocols or processes that actually got you here. Now we're just going to work on the other things that you need to get to the next level. May that be another champion, may that be communication, but always reinforcing their sense of goodness because I think that's what gets lost along the way where people are trying to improve, where their confidence gets shaken. And if I knew this to be true about myself, it's kind of like maybe you for sure know that gravity's here, right? You go outside, you don't need to test that it's real, but then maybe one day you jump and you go like 10 feet in the air and you feel like you're floating away, like, oh my God. And then you come back down and you're like, holy shit, did that just happen? And people are like, dude, why are you freaking out? You're like, dude, gravity's not real. And everyone's looking at you like, dude, what are you talking about? Watch this. And it drops. Like, no, dude, trust me, almost floated away. And it's like, okay, so how do I give that player that sense of confidence that gravity is still real, even though they may have had this thing that's shaken a little bit. So I think it's really important to reinforce maybe those strengths of that player that actually got them there and then seeing how they can add it. And then I think the most important thing though is making sure that even when they do fall and fail, they're not attributing that to them as a themselves like I'm bad, I'm stupid versus this is just a part of the process of getting better. Because I think that's a really hard
Mm-hmm.
mindset to shift of who am I? Am I good? Do I actually belong here? Versus, okay, we won't even touch that. Like, you already proven that by being here. Now the question is, how can we continue to push you forward to stay here? But I don't know. I think it's really hard because when you're dealing with ego and players' confidence, what is that process like, especially with rookies?
I think it comes down to the environment, right? The
Mm,
openness and willingness to allow them to express themselves. Like you can only really learn through failure. By failure, I mean learning opportunities, which maybe don't end in the outcome that you want, but it affords you a chance to be like, hey, let's talk about this situation and what we can learn from it. So the worst case on the opposite end of the spectrum would be, you make a mistake and then I just say like, dude, what? This it's so simple. It's so obvious. Like just do this, right? And it makes that player, the rookie, kind of feel like, yeah, I guess, yeah, it's he's telling me it's simple. I'm messing up the simple stuff over and over again. And the only problem, I guess, with video games is that we tend to like pause the game, look at a timestamp, and take it very situationally. In this exact situation, you're teaching someone to look at a chessboard and remember an exact position rather than a concept. If you teach them the concept, then they'll remember a lot more positions and it'll click in their memory. So really, for a rookie, it's about trying to teach them because generally, I would say 99 times out of 100, they're not trying to enter your game. right? They are actually trying to do what they think is correct, and if they're not doing something correct, then you need to teach them why, so it won't happen in the future.
Dude, did you see that movie Inglorious Bastards?
I did see it.
Okay, all right. So there was this interview that you know that Kristoff guy, the dude that was like the Jew hunter, like the bad guy
Yes.
in the movie.
Yeah.
So he did this interview, and the interviewer was asking him like, "Oh, how did you like embody this character to be so evil? Like, how did you learn how to be just like an evil person?" And it was a really interesting point because he's kind of like looks confused, and he's like, "He wasn't evil. What are you talking about?" I was like, oh, that's right. Because to him and his character, he was doing his job, right?
Yeah,
And
they were the goodies. They
exactly,
weren't the
like that.
baddies.
That was my job. I was on the right side of history for his perspective. So that's why I was like, that's what made him so terrifying was that he didn't think that he was doing anything evil. I think that just came up for me because like how many times in your games, especially in solo queue or even in pro play or team play, like, oh my god, my support's inting me, like they're just throwing this game, versus like, oh no, have you ever thought that that's what they thought the play was supposed to be? They just didn't communicate it or whatever, but rarely, especially in pro play, if that's your teammate, that they're throwing on purpose.
Yeah.
But it's a what's the other psychological concept? It's oh my god, I know it. It's oh my god, it's gonna come to me. But it's the concept where you think when something bad happens and someone else does it to you, like that's because they're terrible or like that's a character flaw of them. But when you do something bad, it's because of the situation you're in. So for example, oh, the fundamental attribution error. It's my favorite. It's a cognitive error. So for example, you are driving down the road and someone cuts you off. You're like, man, that guy's such an asshole. I bet they're just like a terrible person all the time. But then say you cut someone off, you're like, oh my god, I have to use the bathroom, or I didn't see you. My bad. I'm sorry. It wasn't me. So I wonder how often that happens, and that actually leads to like bigger problems in teams.
I think a lot of the time, right? You assume that a mistake, a bad mistake that you don't think is correct or you wouldn't have done, is down to them being like a bad player. But I think it's also partly because teams tend to immediately jump into scrims when they meet. New team forms, they just arrive, they grab some food, and the next day it's like we got scrims, because that's what you do as a team, right? You scrimmage together, and because they don't know each other as people, usually their only basis is via the game. So things they do in the game, things they do, they don't say, and I think that it's kind of hard then to build up that relationship between people, because if my first experience of you is inting my mid lane, I'm just like, oh my god, can't he's such a bad player. This year is going to be pretty horrendous, if you ask me. And it could be a lack of understanding. So maybe I'm sitting there and you're just being really quiet in review, and I'm thinking, he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know that he's inted my lane and he's ruined the game. And you're sitting there going, all right, I want to try. I know I played badly, or I know something happened. I want to see what everyone else has to say about it first before I speak up, right? I'm just going to passively sit here. And I've met players like that. So what I obviously would love to do is to get to know each other as people first. It's maybe not your first introduction to be via the game. It's like the Halo phenomenon, where it's like I want our first experiences, not experience, to be good. I want to go grab some food, play board games, go to the gym, hang out, uh, ask questions to each other, so I get to know them better. And I think like from there, your basis for, I guess, grading or comparing people that are on your team is going to be a lot. I'm going to be a lot more forgiving of you because, oh, this guy's a really cool guy. Ryan's actually pretty great. He made a mistake. Maybe, you know what? I'm just going to chat to him after the game. I know he didn't, it's fine. Looking forward to fixing it with him and chatting to him about it instead of just, cannot believe it. You know?
So absolutely, I think the funny part is like that's like if that doesn't happen, then we have the traditional well, one person's bad, let's change him. Honeymoon stage. Yay, we win a couple of games, then something bad happens and I want to talk to him, and then we'll cut somebody. Yay, honeymoon phase. You know what? It was the coach. Cut the coach, put someone else in. Yay, honeymoon phase. Like
Someone has to be cut. It's a very Western thing to blame one player. And it's kind of interesting how I heard someone say it about a team, is like, there has to be one person on a team that you blame for whatever's going on, because people aren't able to, I mean, number one, look inwardly and kind of be like, okay, how could I have helped or supported, or how could I hold myself accountable to what's going on in the team environment around me? But I think that in the beginning, it's quite hard to set up an environment where people are able to be direct with your feedback, because you say that in the beginning, but still people are being like overtly nice. So you actually develop these uh, uh, like shortcuts to where you think you should be, but you're actually missing out on a lot. And then after 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, you actually go back and you're like, you know what, this is very unsustainable. We actually need to start tackling these problems like immediately. And then you start adding in rules to how you should play, communication chains, roles and responsibilities into the game. But that's all stuff you should be doing in the beginning, because that's how you learn how to see the game through the same lens, instead of just we'll just play the game and figure it out on a game to game basis as we go along.
Dude, I think you're nailing it because like I think people just think like, oh, relationships come by being friendly and nice to each other. But it's like, okay, that's part of it, but the real reasons why relationships works is because it's built off agreements, either overt or like just social agreements that we thought we've made. Like, and I think that affects everything because, like, for example, even when players say like, "Oh, my bad, I made a mistake," or in review, "That was my bad, I made a mistake here," and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm glad that you took ownership and accountability, but what's gonna happen next time? I'm gonna say my bad again. Nothing's gonna change, but I took responsibility, but then nothing changes. So I think even in like relationships, even with people, right? Like when you mess up with your friends, you say, okay, that was, I'm sorry I called you that name, or I'm sorry that I said we're gonna play Robert and then I ghosted you that one time. Next time I'm going to make sure that I'm there. Okay, cool. Now we have the handshake agreement, and I've given you consent to like check me if that doesn't happen next time, right? So I think that's missing in a lot of teams, or the teams that go boom, is that even when we do these reviews or we talk about the problems, there and even if there is resolution, there isn't like follow through, or those agreements don't get held or something, and typically that's how, in my experience, those like relationships with teams like dissolve.
Yeah, the follow up is important, and there's like two parts to it. So like the first part is on a team, there is the like unconscious incompetence, where I'm not
Just
aware I'm making
incompetence.
mistakes. Just incompetence, just like I am messing up and I'm not aware of it. So it's like the meme of the jungler who's singing while like just like his mid laner's being like 1v4'd. It's just like I'm going through my game, and until someone lets me know that I'm messing up, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. It would be extremely irrational of me to be upset with you if you're not, let's say, helping me, but I've never mentioned it to you. I just expect and assume that you should just know. And I hear that a lot from players. He should just know, right? And I'd say, well, why don't you tell him? If I need to tell him, he's not good enough. And I'm
Why is
like,
he a pro
hold
if
on
they
a
don't just
second.
know? This is like basic stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's basic to me, but maybe not to you because you're something else. And I think that that is the first, like you mentioned about someone like making a mistake, right? And say, my bad. Cool. You're aware of it now. So what are you going to do to help, I guess, alleviate that or reduce the amount of chance of that happening again? So like, I would like to know that, because sometimes a player will just say, my bad. It's like, okay, my patience a little bit lower. Oh, I made a mistake again. My bad. And then you're like, hold on a second. Like, he keeps saying my bad. At a certain point, my bad is not good enough. What are you actually doing to fix the problem, other than being aware of it? But the first step is always awareness. Okay, I'm actually going home and watching VODs. I'm working with my coach. I'm actively practicing it, because improvement doesn't come from understanding, or change doesn't come from understanding. If I tell you, hey, you need to do this in the game, Ryan, you're aware of it, but it will take some time for the habit to be cemented in, right? Because your instincts are probably going to be counterintuitive to what's actually happening in the game. So it'll take a while. I have to be patient and allow you to find a way of internalizing it so that it won't happen again. But I can't expect it to be like, I told you in game one you have to come through mid, and then in game two you didn't. It's like, dude, I told you. I programmed you in game one. Surely you should just be doing it automatically by game two, correct? So again, that's where teams kind of lose that trust and breakdown, right? And I think from a team perspective, what I really like this kind of like long-winded chain where you go into a review. I'll use League of Legends for example, but it could be anything.
Hmm.
And we have a specific position of the game where we talk about, and then we talk about it for 20 minutes, and then eventually we get agreement. next time this situation happens again, we're going to do this instead. And everyone nods. And then you leave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you load into the next game. And League of Legends, they shuffle the deck. And they give you brand new champions, brand new situations. That's why the game is so, longevity is so high. Like the
Mm-hmm.
situations are infinite. And then we're leaving and we expect number one, we expect that same situation to arise again with the same draft. We expect all 5 players to remember, oh, this is that situation. This is that exact position we spoke about 22 days ago. And then you expect them all to remember the conclusion. And then you hope that they all are able to execute on the conclusion that they've never executed before. And if all those things happen, success.
And this is what zero prompting, this is what zero external, like, okay, here it is again, like how you typically
Yeah.
do with learning, you know. And I think the most interesting things that, like with like League of Legends, unlike Valorant, I think sometimes you can't push pause in some of these games,
Yeah.
or you can't like reset up a board like chess to like, okay, this is a situation, remember, play it again. They just have to see it, recognize it, and then at the review, when it doesn't go well, it's like, guys, we talked about this, remember? Oh yeah, my bad. And everyone does the same thing. And then the same thing happens again.
Yeah, I actually it reminds me of there's like a TL clip from maybe it was like their end of season docu series where their coach was they'd lost the game and then their coach kind of comes in like being a bit upset, to put it lightly, saying like, I can't believe you guys lost that. From now on, this was all in the scouting report. From now on, like I don't want you guys to lose to anything that's in the scouting report. So he said that, and like you don't know what's in the scouting report, but I always think it's better to reinforce more frequently ideas rather than just say, "Hey guys, you need to focus. You need to remember. You need to whatever." It's very ethereal. I think you have to say, "Okay, next game, I want you guys to focus on this or remember this," rather than say, "You better not lose anything in the scouting report," or "You better not make any more mechanical mistakes." It's like give them something to latch onto that they will remember, as opposed to the adult or the parent on the sidelines shouting at their kid, going "Focus," and you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll just focus." That was the problem.
Dude, now you're here, like it's so interesting too to hear like the words people use, like lock in, focus, good mental, effort, accountability. Like it's interesting because yeah, I think cognitively we all know what these words or phrases mean, but at the same time when we get into a team, all these words and phrases kind of mean similar things, but at the same time they don't. For example, okay, I need you to put an effort. Okay, does effort mean to you playing a bunch of games? Okay, does effort mean to you talking to the coach after? Does effort mean to you like watching the VODs, taking notes? Like, what does effort mean? Because now sometimes we get to fight it like, oh, I'm putting in so much more effort than this person. It's like, wait, what do you mean? Well, I'm playing more. They don't even play. They just watch VODs. Okay, do you watch VODs? No, dude, I don't need to do that. Like, I just play games. It's like, okay, so when you say these things, what's your operational definition of them so we all know what you're talking about so we can do the same things? Or if you're talking about effort, I can show you effort in that way. But even like lock in, okay, on what? Okay, focus on what? Like, okay, what do you mean? So do you think it's sometimes like a language issue? Is it like an agreement on what these things mean? Because I'm even thinking of like my bad. Okay, my bad can mean a lot of things. My bad could be like, I'm gonna say that I did this wrong before anyone else jumps on me because it feels bad to get ridiculed. Could my bad mean I'm actually taking responsibility and now I'm gonna do things that you told me to do to get better at this thing. So like, what do you think this
Mm.
issue is when they're talking about like these, I guess, quote unquote nebulous words?
I think it's just assuming, right, that we all understand each other when we don't, because what's really obvious for you is not the same for me because we're focusing on different things. And I think that for teams tend to skip steps a lot. So in the beginning, they just kind of, like I said, go into the game and practice and try to learn via scrims they've had and review. And then, like I said, week one, they're like, okay, we need to focus on making sure we have a draft protocol because, it was hard to understand what was going on. Week two, it's like, oh, actually, we need to start working on communication roles because that was our problem. Week three, it's like, our team fighting's not that good. Da, da, da. Champion pool, week five. And you're going through it and it's kind of like whack-a-mole, right? And I think a lot of the stuff that you could have covered can be covered before you even sit down at your computer, right? It's like you said, it's like an operating manual where we all speak a different dialect of League of Legends,
Mm-hmm.
right? For you and me, we're not that fluent as players and coaches. I hope their dialect is more fluent, but regionally they're a little bit different. So I would personally like if players would try and figure out like what exactly that means. So you mentioned like effort, right, and locking in. So effort is obviously different for each person. One person might play a lot of solo queue, one guy might watch VODs, one guy might try to talk to his teammates a lot and help them a lot. They're investing a lot of their own time and mental resources into supporting the team. And the big thing is transparency. I need to know because I can check solo queue numbers, right? And if I see you've got 30 games in a week and then I've got five, you're like, oh, Robert's really slacking, right? But it's like maybe I've recognized that my problem isn't hands based and it's more macro, right? So I'm watching bots deliberately to try help the team, but no one can see it. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to have that transparency of like, okay, well, let's figure out and have that sense of, okay, I'm confident that everyone is spending their time wisely and no one's slacking, right? They're investing it in the right ways. If my problem was all game knowledge and I'm only playing solo queue, it's like, yeah, he's working hard, but like really in the wrong domain, right? Again, this is like pretty bad. So we have to figure out like what that effort looks like. So I usually ask players, all right, what I do it in the reverse, like what's difficult for you? Like
Mm.
what actually takes effort from you? Some people might say, waking up for the gym in the morning. Some people might say being on time. Some people might say spamming solo queue. Like, great. I want everyone to understand that when this guy turns up on time, when this guy is on the gym and he's putting in effort, this takes a lot of effort for this person. They are putting in hard work. The guy that says, "Oh, I love playing solo queue," when he's dropping 30 games, that's easy work for him. That's a light day for him. Like we can still say congrats on playing 30 games, but we should also hold him accountable for the hey, like, did you watch any VODs last night? He's like, not really. It's like cool. The 400 game of X champion, your one trick is like really not going to help you that much. So that's what I like to kind of make players understand is that everyone is built different, and we
Mm-hmm.
should be playing towards that. There was a chat with the Vitality coach, the CS:GO coach, a while back, and he was kind of mentioning like when you go into their scrim room, they're all doing different things. You got one guy who's playing solo ranked. There's another guy who's watching like VODs and talking to the team, like trying to find strategies to work. Like there's another guy who might be focusing on like recovery or whatever. Like they're all doing different things, but they're like the most winningest team currently right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the understanding that not everyone's going to be doing the same thing, but they're all putting in the work in the areas in which they need to put it in or they're best at. And I think that's important too. And the only thing where the coach can kind of like come in is like, all right, I know you're really good at this, but you need to start investing or diversifying some of your time into this thing.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
fine too.
it's almost as if like, all right, well, I'm going to the gym to do work, and I only do upper body. I only do bench press. I only do arms,
Yeah.
and like I have little chicken legs. But oh, every exercise turns into an arm exercise. So it's leg press. Nope. Now that is reverse shoulders, and I'm pressing it
Arm
now.
press.
Exactly. But it's like okay. Even though you can do that and you like doing arms, your work today is a singular squat. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? I'm doing like 50 bicep curls. Yeah. They need to do one squat, but it's just one. Look at their legs.
Mhm.
That's all effort for them. And I think it's kind of hard, like having these discussions with the team of like changing their perception. I think is really, really important to make sure everyone is on the same page of like how they want to accomplish the mission. But I want to kind of want to change the conversation a little bit because a lot of common issues that I'm seeing too is like a lot of players either trying to either improve their own skills or even make it to go pro. So what have you seen in your experience has been like the biggest barriers from like players from solo queue trying to go pro? Or like where did they get stuck the most, do you think?
I think I think the social problem that they have or like the systematic problem is that the only way for them to get noticed is to either get really high LP, like
Mm-hmm.
like top of the ladder, or to win something. So they win NACL or CLOL, right? So that visibility in terms of like, look at me, I'm at the top, like pick me up. And in NA, it feels to me like it's a very much a not like who's ready for LCS, but who's next. Who's the
Who's
next most
next?
visible person, right? Who's at the door, and like you're Sturdy had a chance, and then immediately he's like who's next? It's like, oh well, it's Zemudo. He's next. And it's like, who's next? Like, it's Darkwings. Like, who's next? And it's this revolving kind of like carousel of players. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve a chance. It's more of a, I wish there was a better way for them to get that rounded education or experience before they go LCS. I think Surdy said in an interview that he never watched VODs before he went pro, but then when he went pro, he watched a lot of VODs, obviously. Like, and I think that that's a thing where pros feel like they can only invest all their time
Playing.
into the facet,
Yeah.
that one linear solo queue kind of pathway, instead of like, are you truly ready for LCS? Like, are you actually, do you understand what's going on and what the needs requirements are? Because if you don't, your first experiences are going to be quite rough, and of course you're going to try and pigeonhole everything into playing towards your comfort, which is again is this narrow band of kind of comfortability. And yeah, you're probably not going to have the best players around you unless you join like a top team, but you're not usually going to join a top team because you're being picked up from the rookie ranks. I think players like APA, for example, when he joined, he had two world champions, a Korean import, and Jan. So like, I'm not saying it was a good environment or situation for him. I'm saying it's probably a better setup than if he had joined like a different team where he wouldn't have maybe had that guidance or structure for him going forward. But I think that a lot of the players that I spoke to a lot a couple of months ago, is like they don't see any other way of improvement other than playing solo queue. And I think that's not true for sure. I think that um, if there was some way of them watching a VOD and then there was like an LP leaderboard for game knowledge and he got like plus 24 for like, oh, I understand this concept, or I watch, I subscribe to a Patreon and watch the coach video and it's like, oh, plus 16 LP for knowledge. If there was like a knowledge leaderboard, they would be like, oh, I'm watching VODs all the time. It's great. I think there is that kind of gamification of, oh, I'm plus 200 LP, so I'm improving.
Hmm.
I think a lot of what League of Legends provides for players is it's like a fake sense of improvement where like a patch hits and I get 400 LP and I'm like, oh, I'm getting better. It's like, were you? Did you get better? Are you actually improving on something? And if you are, can you tell me what you improved on? And they're like, I don't know, like early game.
Uh,
You know?
my
Hmm?
chapel.
Yeah, my
Uh,
shampoo is slightly bigger, better.
it's so interesting. I think like back in 2017, 16, Snapchat. I think there was like my aha moment was like, whoa. Do you have Snapchat or use Snapchat in the past?
When that came out, I was like, this is a fad. This will never take off. And I guess I was wrong. I was like, I'm not jumping on this.
Oh, because you weren't
Um,
sending pictures that disappeared. That's why, Robert. You didn't see the utility of it.
I
But
didn't. I was like, what is this?
the cool thing though about Snapchat back in the day, because I was working in QueueUP at the time, and I was in a session with a kid, and he literally just took a picture of like the sofa or the floor and sent it. I'm like, what was that? And he goes, oh, I have to like keep up this streak with this girl or this guy. I'm like, why? And it's like, oh, because like if I keep up the streak, that means that like, we're really good
Streak.
friends. I was like,
Yeah.
what? You just sent him a picture of the floor though. Like that is nothing. He's like, yeah, but the streak. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting.
The
Where
psychologist that came up with that for Snapchat, like genius.
brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Because now essentially what they did was they created this social commodity to show how valuable our relationship was via a streak. And then if you apply that same like thing to League of Legends, it's like, wow, League of Legends has also quantified how your self-worth or worth through this one metric of points or wins or whatever. Like no one else created that. Like it has no value outside of this game other than maybe going to pros or whatever, but this is the one thing that they measured. But at the same time, like you're
Mm.
saying, is that the most important thing to measure for a player? So it makes me think like, okay, you know those pentagrams of like when you play like RPGs, like speed, attack, or whatever defense. All right, if you were going to now like create a couple like a pentagram or like one of those things of like points of a player, like what do you think they would be? For example, like communication or like learning or like mechanical ability. Like what do you think some of those like points would be to that give a better, more accurate picture of improvement for a player?
Question. It reminds me of like Football Manager with the I think they were called radar or spider diagrams or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah,
and like
yeah.
you had a player who's like who's got like pace 20, but his like control is like 9. It's like, oh
Yeah.
man, it's fine. He's really fast. It's fine. I'll take him. I think well, like what does solo queue measure, right? So solo queue measures uh,
Wins and Mastery of Champion?
wins and mechanics, usually champion mastery. So that's fine. You can click buttons. Um, I think because of how it works as well, it does reward people that are playing champions where they have a lot of autonomy and agency. So we'll just call it carry potential.
Mm-hmm.
So it does pigeonhole. Like you're not going to have a usually like a rank one Sejuani, like he's just like turbo carrying every game. But if you're playing Graves, Kindred, Kha'Zix, for example, then yes, maybe. I think for like Valorant, for example, is aim, right? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
he's got really good aim. Okay, and I think there maybe is a higher level of strategical base knowledge required for Valorant to play at the higher levels rather than just running and gunning. But for League, I think that the parts that it doesn't cover is like communication, champion pool, width. I think it doesn't cover uh, like macro knowledge. It doesn't cover your ability to work as a team, communicate your thoughts and ideas, share information, take criticism, etc. I think that it doesn't cover how well someone would adapt to playing outside of their own environment, like playing on stage. People always talk about stage nerves, for example. I think they're all things that it doesn't cover. It could be something as simple as like professionalism too. There are some players who are really good at the game, but their professionalism traits are quite low, you know? And I think that yeah, there are things that we hope someone will have because they have the raw skill. But if you think about how Korea works, for example, they, back in the day, they had like a lot of sister teams. They have a lot of trainees. They pick up players when they're younger. They put them through the system. The people that come out of that system are going to have a very similar profile.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be very coachable. They're going to have good mechanics. They're going to have a certain level of knowledge, etc. The ones that don't make it out of that system are going to be have a deficit somewhere. It could be in coachability, communication, whatever, professionalism. They can often make it abroad, where the standard is like lower or different. Where it's like, yeah, okay, this guy's like a little bit toxic, but it's fine. He's
It's
really good
fine.
at the game compared to the average person,
But they
right?
got hands,
It's
bro. It's
fine.
good.
It'll
It's
work.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carry.
You rarely hear about, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, right? But you rarely hear about like Korean players that are at the top LCK level that are like toxic individuals. It's the same for I always compare it to like Eastern Bloc training where they put in 1,000 people and then people that come out the other end are of a similar profile and like conditioning and physicality, right? But it doesn't mean that it's like in Korea, it doesn't mean that in order to be the best, you have to fit that profile. It's like the only ones that survive that kind of training regime were the ones that could like physically survive it. The attrition rate was actually very high for that.
Mm.
So the same thing goes for Korea as well. Like the attrition rate is probably decently high. You always would see a lot of StarCraft players that were probably very, very good that never made it to the pro level because the competition was so fierce. But that's just the standard, the bar of entry for depending on how many people you have there. Same thing goes for like China or whatever. NA, that bar is going to be a bit lower because we have less players to choose from. So if you were to have the same bar, you're like, well, this guy wouldn't cut it at all. You're left with like a handful of players that would theoretically survive and make it out of like the LCK training regime, right? Because it requires a lot. Even like for AL, like Tabe's team, hey, we're doing triple blocks all the time. We're practicing X number of hours every day. How many people would actually not thrive in that, but just survive that kind of training regime? I think it
Mm-hmm.
would be quite low. So I think it's very disingenuous for people to say Western teams and players are lazy. They should just do what Tabe is doing or Tabe's team is doing.
Yeah.
I think it's like, well, if you want people to retire or like burn out, sure, be my guest. I think it's more of a case of like there's a middle ground between that kind of extreme amount of training and the modicum, the minuscule amount of recovery just to mitigate the cost of that training. And I
Yeah.
think like finding that balance is really important.
I think also the difference too is like when you take that cultural factor, like, and relating that back to like Steph Curry, they through that culture, they've actually created a system to support that workload maybe there, or they've created an atmosphere of how to learn more quickly so they can play that many games consistently versus in the US I'm not sure if they actually have had the same intentionality of this is how we train League of Legends because or any video game for that matter unless it's like I don't know something with a gun, like they don't have that same like process per se or even like maybe system to support or encourage players to learn and develop over time. Because I mean, I've even heard like in Korea, the PC Bang culture of what it's like to play in the PC Bang, and like someone shits on you, they like message you like, oh, this is how to play this champion better, or like, oh, you're doing this, you could try this next time. Versus in NA, you get shit on, and the message you get like, ha, you're dog shit, and that's pretty much how you improve, I guess, or like you try to figure it out on your own, or that's like a very underground thing until you find I don't know maybe get to college where they start teaching you these types of things or maybe even when you get to the
Mhm.
pros when they actually start teaching you like a method of how to learn which I think is really really interesting and maybe a disservice but do you think it's a cultural diff too?
Uh, Definitely in Asian countries, there's like a deference to authority, to maybe to like to elders, right? So I could just
Mm,
say to you, like, hey, I just, go pick up this champion.
okay,
I'm not going to say, you're not going to say like, oh, no,
I think it's
it's
bad.
not for me. Yeah, you're going to say, oh, okay. And you go off and you play it and you come back with your findings, right? And I think that's like one of the, I remember I spoke on Misfits. He was like the assistant coach, and I asked him about Coma. I was like, because this is back when, I mean, he's still the goat, but this is back when he was also a goat. Um, I asked him like, so what is he like? And he was like, oh well, what do you think he's like? And I was like, oh, I assume he like controls everything. And he said that actually for scrims, he kind of like allows the players to, oh, I want to try this. Okay, why? It's like for this reason. Okay, cool, try it out. And then it's like after the game, he'd be like, okay, I guess we can't play this champion anymore. He's like, and the player would say, why? And he would go, well, you said you get prio, and you said it's
Does get
really good,
bro.
and I don't see it. And then the player would either say okay, or he'd say, give me one more shot. So the players would have to prove, like, oh, just I can do it, I can do it. Like, promise you, I got this. And then if you can, that's information, that's data. And then on game day, Koma or Pumandu said that Koma would just pick based off of like, okay, this is the information I have from scrims. I'm going to build like a functioning draft from it, and this is what we're going to do. But I think that allowing the players to, I guess, have that autonomy over what they want to do is a lot more helpful than sometimes in especially for NA teams.
Mm,
It can be difficult sometimes for them to, and not at the top. For the top, I guarantee you, there's a lot more proactivity. But as you drop down, they will wait until the coach is like starting a review maybe to talk. There's a little bit more of a deference from certain players, like even from the solo queue players that I was like talking about. Like there's not as much proactive direction as I
mm.
would have assumed they would have. It's like, so what are you focusing on for improvement? I'm just trying to get
Winning.
better at the
Yeah.
game. Just am the game, get high LP. That's my goal. And in Europe, there's a lot more of a, oh, I'm actually like actively working on this, or this is what I'm focusing on, a lot more. And I think that it will be, and I think it is a bit of a cultural thing
So you're saying purpose
where
driven learning is what you're saying.
I think it's really important to have that, to have an idea of like, why am I actually like logging onto the server? They wake up in the morning and I'm like, so what's your morning routine look like? Oh, I wake up and I play a few games of solo queue. It's like, oh, but like that's after you have breakfast. And it's like, no, I just play a few games. And when I get really hungry, then I'll eat breakfast. I'm like, it sounds more like an addiction than it does an actual like purpose driven lifestyle. But I know they're not. Okay, maybe they are somewhat kind of addicted, but it is passion, right? At the end of the day, I guess. But I would like them to have more of a deliberate. Okay, so when do you stop playing? It's like, oh, when I get tilted or too tired or too hungry. When do you go to bed? When I can't keep my eyes open. It's like that's hard work. You get it, but it's hard work without having any breaks, any structure, any pathway, any kind of like deliberate like nuance. And I think that if you do that, there's going to be like a wide like distribution of where you're going to end up. You get 100 NA players or 100 Korea players, and you tell them just to play all day, every day, and then the skill distribution is going to be very wild, very drastic. And I think that that's what people have right now. And like going back to your point about, I don't think they have the, I guess, systematic again. There's nothing else for them to do. So like I would love a universe where there were more combines that were happening that would pick up players from masters and above, for example, and they
Mm,
would teach them things as opposed to the normal combine, which is just it's like a
challenges
show
and above, yeah.
ponies, right? Go play and we'll see who's good. It's like, well, they're never going to be good. You want a catch and release system where, like, if we still had academy for NA, we would be keeping players for a year and after them back into the wilderness again, right? Instead of keeping someone academy for like 4 years. And I think that there's so many good tier two coaches out there that are investing and giving their
Yeah.
time to people, but it's too much of a one-to-one kind of like compartmentalized basis. There needs to be more of a, we're running like a new Riot tier two circuit, and it's just based around like improving people. Like Riot could hire people and run, I wouldn't even call them combines, but just run like educational in-houses online all year, and that would improve the overall player base level by a lot. And it would probably be more beneficial than Riot like having a stipend for like prize money, because like
Hmm.
prize money just makes people want to go play, but it doesn't improve anyone. It's just solo queue with a little bit of a pot of gold at the end of the tournament. I don't think it's actually great. What they actually miss is like that, like coaching kind of interaction and that improvement.
Whoa. That, I'm thinking about that actually really cool. I was saying like back in the day when we used to give challenger jackets, that was cool.
They were
But
cool.
but I'm wondering if like if in addition to this jacket you get to come to Riot or whatever, we're gonna actually train you for like 3 days, or like we're gonna host this online thing, this online combine for the top 50 or bottom 50 maybe, because in top 50, bottom 50 to actually like do some training. That actually be really really cool. But it's really funny now that you're saying it. It's like, wow, so what you're saying, Robert, is like have a purpose for things, because I literally just talked to someone today. It's like I want to be more disciplined. I want to have like an actual routine and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, well, what's the purpose? I don't know. I just want to be more disciplined. I want to be more consistent. Yeah, 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 yeah. What's the purpose? Because basically what you told me is like, I want to save money. Okay, for what? Or I wanted to go to the gym to be healthy. Okay, like, you want to, for what? Just to be healthy. So it's not the routine or it's not the discipline that you actually need. It's what's the purpose of this thing? Because if you understand the purpose, the other things will come like more naturally because you understand why you're doing these things versus I'm copying or I know I'm supposed to or discipline is good, which leads me to the I've heard this so many times from players. I have this Mamba mindset, right? I heard so many players, even like in CS, like they're coming out with these interviews, like, oh, it's like I have this Mamba mindset, like I try really hard, and it's like I feel like people are misusing this mindset, or maybe they're trying to apply like even like the Michael Jordan first one in, last one out mindset from traditional sports, but they haven't really understood the purpose of how to adapt and put it into like esports. But they liked it from this person in basketball did it, so that's what I have to do. But how have you seen this mindset be beneficial or maybe misused? What are your thoughts?
It depends, right? It's like interpretation. So you could watch The Last Dance. You could read the Tim Grover book, for example. Like you can, every person's going to have a very subjective interpretation of what Mamba mindset is and what exactly that entails. So like there's uh, it was a story of Shaq talking about Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan's like trying to dunk on him, and Shaq's like, people, I've been dunked on like 7 times in my career. It just doesn't happen. So Jordan did it, and then Shaq said, yeah, I'm just gonna put him onto the floor. I'm just gonna put him onto the floor because that's what you do. And then he went over to like pick him up, and then Michael Jordan was like, never like like help like a enemy, right? Like never helped him up and whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. So there are different ways that things could be interpreted as like never accept help, or it
Mm,
could be interpreted as like never show weakness in front of your enemy. Like it can give people a cold disposition. Like each learning lesson is going to be slightly different. Brian O'Driscoll, really famous Irish rugby player, had this funny quote from a press conference where it's like, okay, well, knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is knowing to never put it in a fruit salad. So it's like, okay, we have like the access of all the knowledge of humankind on our phone here, right? So we can uh, find anything. But again, it goes back to like the very first point of when we were talking of like are you able to adapt the knowledge into the specific situation or into your own specific circumstance? And I'm not like 100% sure. I think that Mamba mindset, mental toughness, things like this are, they eventually get kind of like sportified. And I guess the Mamba mindset is that sportification of mental toughness, where it takes it to the nth degree. How many Kobe's are there or were there? How many Michael Jordans were there? Are there? Like, not many. You're comparing yourself to the extreme exception rather than even the average. And I don't think you're going to find a lot of value in that, because that was who they were, and they developed that
Mm,
over years and years and years to get to the point where it became like ingrained in them. I'm not going to go to you and say, okay, like I'm going to teach you the Mamba mindset and it's going to be really helpful for you. It's like,
for you.
I don't know where you're going. I don't know what you find difficult, what you're good at, what you're bad at, you know? I don't know how you're going to react in certain circumstances. And I think that it is a different sport. Esports,
Hmm.
I think it's a lot more communication and teamwork based. Like one person can't just decide they're going to, like all the Jordan stories, just, you know what?
I'm gonna win.
I'm going to take over the game. No,
Yeah.
I'm just going to start winning now. I'm just going to drop 40. Like you can't do that in League.
Or
And I
even
think
Valorant,
that,
dude. Even in Valorant, you can't do that.
or even Valorant,
Yeah.
like it really, a lot of your success, and it is a story about Kobe and Jordan as well. Like a lot of their success and our success is based on our teammates. So, and they were not liked by their teammates as
Nope.
well.
Kobe
They
and
were not
Shaq,
liked by them.
Pippen and
They enjoyed
Jordan.
winning,
Hmm.
right? But can you imagine an esports player is like, I'm just gonna be a dick to everyone. Their
Oh,
teammates would
I
be like,
can. I can imagine that.
get this guy out. Like, so quiet. It's like, he's a dick. Yeah, but he's like dropping 40 points a game, right? He's like, no, he's not. He's not up in the lane. Like, he's just being a dick. Like, I think you honestly have to be an exceptional player if you're going to warrant being a toxic player or teammate, right? You have to have something about you that's like by far and away, irrefutably, this is a net benefit, even if it's only a little bit more for the team. Like even you look at Faker, the I posted a tweet before of like the comms for Faker where Doran makes a mistake and Faker's like, oh, it's okay, it's fine, nothing to worry about, just breathe,
Hmm.
right? Like
Hmm.
that's the person you want on a League of Legends team or a Valorant team rather than someone who's like, hey guys, like lock in, like focus up. It's like, oh, my bad. Thank you, sir, for helping me. This is really useful.
No, no. When I do. That's what I meant to say. That's my faker. When I deep sigh, that's what I'm meaning to tell you. So when we play, that's it. I hope you get that.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. The deep sigh after I like tower dive and kill everyone.
It's fine.
Kanchana.
Siobhan, it's fine. Yeah, I think it's really interesting because it really what I'm really taking away from this conversation too. It's like it's important to have like these aspirational things or to admire what these people have done and how they've done it. At the same time, it sounds like it's really, really important for you to understand your own processes of what is going to help you to make your essential secret sauce. I mean, it's great to taste others, but you need to make your own recipe from the other recipes that you've kind of gathered from other people.
Yeah, I mean their choices, their demeanor, mentality is based off of their life experiences. You think you've had the same upbringing as Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan? Like I don't think so. I think you need to try and figure out like where that disposition is coming from, because it's not going to be consistent or genuine if it's not something that's close to you, right? That lived in experience. And I think that that's kind of like our job, is to help players develop
Mm-hmm.
that. Like I've met a lot of players that don't have that structure or routine in their life, and they
Yep.
kind of, I think the people that don't have the structure and routine tend to attribute a lot more heavily, especially to external. It's like, well, I lost, so I'm going to change my mouse. I lost, so I'm going to change my the shoes that I'm wearing on game day. Like it's very superstitious. My mouse pad, I can't play this champion because I lose with it. Like whatever it might be, and they're always changing. Oh, I've got a brand new Spotify playlist. It's like, okay, let's have something consistent, and let's talk about why this should work for you, and let's attempt to put it into practice, try it out for a bit, and then talk about it. Let's not just change based off of every win or loss
Or the worst is when they do win and they have to do that thing every single time, and it's almost like
every time.
OCD like it has to be this
We
way. I
always
have to
win
eat
when we
this.
get tender greens.
Yeah.
Always.
Or wearing this underwear, or I never washed this thing, or like oh wait, we're getting a little neurotic here. No, it has to be this way. It's like, okay, are you trying to control things in the wrong way here, sir? And they're like, no, it has to be this way. But it's really interesting too, like the guilt and shame of that thing. Like if I don't live up to this mindset, or if I don't do it exactly like this, I'm terrible. Versus like, oh, that may have not been for you, or like it may have, or at the same time, okay, that mindset may have gotten you here, but that mindset may not take you to the promised land. Like, and so how do you want to change that mindset to incorporate the things that you've learned with the processes that you've developed to get to the next level? But that's scary and that's new. It's like, all right, or you can keep doing the same thing, and that's where you get stuck. Because I think when people get hard stuck, it's mostly it's here too, and where they're
No,
thinking more than
I
they ever
think it
should
is.
begin.
I don't think there. Okay, there's a difference between the hands of, let's say, your top LCK players and your top NA players, right? But
Fair.
I think it's not like a it's not massive to the point where how to phrase it, because I know it's decently big, but I think it's because there's a little bit more, we know when to do it and when not to do it. They're not just always trying to skill check, for example. I think maybe that's an assertion you could have made about Chinese teams way before. Like, I remember my team playing 2017 on a Chinese super server, and they're like, we're playing in Diamond, and everyone here is just montage. They're just trying to make montage plays 24/7, right? Whereas maybe it's harder to do on ping, maybe it's harder to do because of certain champions, maybe the coaches have like coached that out of players, like, hey, don't do this, the variance is too high. There's so many reasons why this could happen. And I think that for like, I lost my train of thought. Where was I before? I was talking about the Chinese super server.
You were talking about like the mechanics of Chinese players versus, or the hands, mechanics versus LCK, Chinese and
Uh
NA.
huh. We go back a little bit more. Sentence right
Uh,
before that.
to be honest, I was looking at this other one because it was relating to the question from chat of, do you think you contribute Chinese teams not reaching the top spots in international events due to the structure of practice?
Uh, you know what's weird? What popped into my head is like back in the day in StarCraft, there were Chinese StarCraft players that were like, I think one of them was called Jim, and there was another guy called someone else. But like, people were talking about them like in whispers, like Jim's gonna come to the next international tournament. Like the Chinese have found StarCraft. It's like
It's
it's
over.
over. This
It's a
guy's
wrap.
insane, and they always tended to travel poorly to international tournaments and not really show up that well. And you could even make the argument now that LPL teams aren't traveling very well or performing very well internationally for reasons. Um, I'm not quite sure why that would be. It could be like travel acclimatization reasons. It could be practice where their practice is too loose, and then when you put stress under it, they just don't have that foundational knowledge or fundamentals to back it up. So it's more based on individual play than it is on team play. Perhaps it'd be great to talk about that with other people, but in my mind, Chinese teams have not like traveled very well, whereas Korean teams tend to travel very well, historically. But
Dude, I'm even thinking
yeah,
about the
I think I'll
differences
never
between,
remember that thing I was going to talk about, and it was great, but I went off on a tangent, and now it's gone into the ether.
and that's exactly what we're supposed to do here. But like going off to your point too, like I'm even trying to think about like when I was working overseas, like in CS, and the training schedule and the traveling and the practicing in hotel rooms with like the beds moved out and they just put desks inside, and you're doing that for like months on end. Like
Yeah,
you're never in the same place. But then thinking about like League of Legends, where you only travel for like a couple events a year, and then
yeah,
you have to get acclimated to the time, the food, the culture, the pace. There's a lot of things that like players need to do a lot differently, and then imagine all that stress they need to do. Then you perform now, right? Because sometimes like single a limb, and then like they have to do it. So, and plus the other things like media and the fans and all these other things that you have to do as a pro, which is insane, the schedule that they have to run. So I mean, I think there's a lot of things that could go into like international competition and when people have to travel. But as fans, you're not thinking about those things. You're thinking they're gonna play and they're gonna do good, and then without all the other stuff.
yeah. I think there's a lot more that goes into it. Let's say you play your final, and then you got to go directly into play-ins, right? It's like, okay, a lot of the play-in teams tend to do better than teams that have that break because they're still fresh, they're still like kind of in that mindset, they're still pushing through. And I've also seen teams that will look pretty good, then take like 8 to 10 days off, and then come play, and then kind of forget how to play the game. It's like a very strange situation where the breaks don't seem to suit League very well
Mm.
for reasons. Like you kind of have to keep on like plugging through. I think that the fans will not have a lot of forgiveness when it comes to teams. They just see the outcome and they don't really see the reasons behind it. And it's too much of a outcome based perspective from fans, which is why I like teams that have that transparency, like coaches or staff that talk about like, Viva Keystart had the problem with canceled flights and coaches not being able to make it over because of visa problems, and then arriving, finding it hard to get scrims. Like there are always reasons why a team might struggle beyond just, oh, we love you guys, and then you lose. Like, well, you're awful now. Like I can't
Hmm.
believe you lost to a
Like a lower tier team. Or, I mean, I think another thing to even think about is like the different types of cognitive demands that each game needs. For example, maybe Valorant players can play more games because if you really think, or CS2, because if you really think about how the game is played, you have like 2 minutes of action and then you have a break, and then 2 minutes of action and then a break. And you do this for like 16 rounds. So there's like inherent breaks through buy phase, right? Or whatever, or plan. You have that little space. But League of Legends, StarCraft, like this is a 30 to 40 minute continuous performance task where there is no break. Maybe it's like I died. Okay, but even that, you're looking around the map, you're thinking about what I need to do next. Like, there's not that big of a break. So I'm thinking, even like, if you were to compare these different events to like sporting events, right? Like, different sports have different demands, just like different esports have different cognitive demands, but people don't think about that because you think, oh, they're just sitting. They can just play for a long period of time versus what are they actually doing with their brain and how much energy is that taking?
butterfly effect kind of explains what League of Legends is in terms of
Mm-hmm.
one small thing that happens top lane can have a big effect on bot lane, for example, right? And at no point is it going to be a game state reset where you're back on an even playing field. Whereas in like Valorant or CS:GO, you can have that except for certain rounds, right? But where it's like, okay, we're back at a point where pistol rounding again,
Yep.
like 50-50. Let's go back at it, and that's fine. I I think the emotional demands of League can be can be higher because of the fact that it can snowball either way.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a team, I had a player, and it was like it was like 0-4 in lane, and it was like really early. It was like 12 minutes into the game, and it was a scrim. And he was kind of like he was struggling, honestly. He was like, "Oh my god!" And we paused the game, and then we put in our academy mid laner, and he kind of popped over, looked at the screen, looked at the score, like yikes. He's like, "Oh,
Yikes!
this is a rough one." But then he just like sat down, put the headset on, and just like, "All right," and he started talking about the game. Okay, this is
Yikes!
what's going to happen. I won't be strong till this item, etc. And that for me really like highlighted the fact that the emotional compounding stress of the game is really related to your own like position or station in the game. So as soon as you remove yourself from that, which is why people can talk about games the next day fine without that emotional kind of like connection, and that why that player could just log into the game and be like, well, it wasn't me. The four deaths wasn't me. This is just an unfortunate position to start in, but whatever. I can play from an even mental playing field. It does require a lot of ability to compartmentalize and recover between games a lot, and that's why solo queue kind of turned into a, yeah, I'm just queuing up. It's like, but don't you want to recover and take a break? It's like, I'm queuing up. I'm clicking find game immediately because it does teach us that, oh, we'll shuffle the deck and you'll get brand new teammates in a brand new situation. So it does teach you to attribute as quickly as possible and then go next,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you'll get that LP again.
It's almost as if like if you're from a different perspective, like if you really want to get good at League or any game, I think in general, it's almost like a mindfulness exercise where it's each game is its own unique thing and you have to be open to experience. You have to forget that last game you played or even like maybe changing that win con as the game opens up in front of you. Because I was talking to a pro ADC, and I was like, dude, how did you climb so well? He's like, I just like had no expectations. That was my secret. Like, what do you mean, dude? Like,
Mm.
I have no idea what's going to be in this game. It's like the Forrest Gump box of chocolate situation. Each game is going to be different, and I just have to pick my champion and let the game come to me. But as soon as I start thinking about what shoulda coulda happened or what's supposed to happen or the game's supposed to do this way, that's when I start losing my games. Like, damn, dude, that was like a very zen way to approach the game. Like, do you do that intentionally? He's like, well, I used to really be a really big tilter, and then once I figured that out, like, it's just League. Like, damn, son, shout out. That was really smart. So I guess like in that ocean, like that big personality, like big five personality things, if you have a really high score and open to experience, I wonder if like that would actually improve your games and reduce tilt or even get your ego out to play the game versus why isn't it happening? Okay, FF15, it's done. I don't want to play. Get me out.
I think you have options as well. Like it goes back to find something that best fits you as a person, as a performer as well. So I think obviously the one you want to change or get people to move on from is the one where you're reminiscing in the past, you're raging, you're complaining, whatever. It's like that kind of really visceral reactions to what's going on around you. I think the Zen approach of like let each game come and treat it as a new experience is great. You can also have the one where every mistake is a learning opportunity, right? So when you go through your games, it's like fantastic. Like I lost this matchup really hard. I'm really looking forward to going through it and figuring out like what I did poorly, what I could do better, right? It's like that. This is all good. Like I can't wait to improve from this. And like there are other ones as well where it's like, okay, I'm not here for the LP. I actually have specific learning goals that I'm trying to practice. So like I'm really happy I get to play this matchup. I'm really happy I get to do this because I feel like this is a good opportunity to practice my early warding because it's a habit I want to build. I really want to practice not dying to enemy jungle ganks because it's a bad habit I had before. So each game should be its own unique situation, and I think that for all of them, what they all tend to probably include is the ability to reflect. I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
part that NA players that are big into solo queue right now don't do as much as they should do or don't do it well enough where when the game is over, all right, next game, because I got my LP, so I'll just move on, or I lost, I want to forget about it, move on. The moving on for them is like the thing, but it's like, even for pro teams, like we're saving all of our scrim VODs. Like, how often do you go back and look at last week's game? Or 2 months ago when we were starting off, even if it's just to see how bad we were in the beginning, right? Or how we've changed, or how people's communications have changed. I personally like for solo queue, I think people should be going back and reviewing through a certain lens, not all the way through, and I definitely don't think they should be looking through for the minutia of like, oh well,
Took a
if I
bad
had
fight
flashed
here.
this, I
Yeah.
would have won the 2v2 and then I would have won the game. This is where we lost it. It's like I don't think that's helpful because like you said before, when will this exact mistake happen again? Very, very, very rarely. So let's pick up on the things of chronologically, like, okay, I'm going into the game. Did I have a plan in my mind for what I wanted to do and an expectation for how I think it should go based off of that? Did I execute that correctly? Were my adaptations correct? Did I notice myself slipping in and out of focus in certain points in the game? Were there any visceral reactions to things that happened in the game? All of these things can point back towards like uncomfortability, right? And I think that a lot of players,
Uncomfortability.
it's probably a bad habit in NA more so than anywhere else, but maybe in League because it's been around for a long time where if something bad happens to me, I will just shut down,
Mm-hmm.
stop thinking logically because I have that, the executive function in my brain turns off and I just start doing things, right? So if I shut off or my ability to problem solve shuts down when something bad happens, I will never actually learn how to, when that problem happens again, or even any setback at all, my reaction will be screwed. I'm just gonna blind invade. I'm just gonna like YOLO it. I'm gonna just like all in, right? So when it actually happens in an important situation, and you're thinking, okay, all right, brain, what's the reaction here? And it's like, just send it.
Send it.
Just absolutely
Trust
send
your
it.
hands. You got this.
Yeah,
You're better.
exactly. Whereas like I've had players who can be narrating about the game, like, okay, I want to do this, this, and this, and then we're going to look at this, And then he's like, okay, after this we're going to do this, and then someone on the other side of the map or whatever they're playing towards insit, instead of just being like, God damn it, or sighing or whatever, the good players, they just instantly recalibrate and go, okay, we're playing for topside now.
Yep.
Like
Drop
the plan
dragon,
that
we're
they
doing the
had,
same.
even though it's gone, and oh man, is it tilting? They're just like, what is the next best play you can do? And fortunately, League of Legends is a great turn-based game if you view it that way.
Mm-hmm.
That you can make a mistake, but it should not, or you should not let it try to impede your ability to make the next best play or idea. And I think some
Yes.
people, it's like the adage of the person who gets shot with an arrow in the foot or the leg, and it's like that really sucks. It's like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened. But sometimes their reaction to the bad thing that happened is so
Let's make
over
it
the
even.
top and so
Shoot
bad.
down the leg.
So no, basically, so that's why they say it's like getting shot by two arrows. The first one is the thing that happened to you, but your reaction is so negative and so bad that you might as well have shot yourself in the other leg with an arrow. And I think that's what a lot of people do when something happens in a game that they didn't like. And whenever you hear about people like Santorin or Sven talking about solo queue, you mentioned about being a very cognition based thing. They mentioned the same thing too. They're like, we don't like solo queue, but we have to play it. So we play it a lot. It is a mental marathon that is quite difficult to do, and I respect them for doing that. But I think a lot of people um, try to go through the same process as them, but maybe their reflective processes or their ability to take stuff out of it is not as good because again, those two guys that I mentioned are like the top players in the region. So
For a reason too, yeah.
their reps, their actual games are going to be of a higher quality. So before you start spamming the game, think about like, am I getting quality reps in, or am I just clicking find game? And I think the quality of the reps is more important.
Dude, it's so crazy because now I'm like, what I love having these conversations, especially about like gaming, is like, dude, whatever we're talking about, you can replace League of Legends and you can put it into school. We can take out Valorant and we can put it in work or your relationships. Like all these things that we're talking about, we're just using League of Legends or gaming as a way to, well, these are our jobs, right? Like this is what we apply this stuff to. But even if you were to take this, all these concepts that we're talking about, take like 20 steps back, all these things apply to life. And I think that's like sometimes like even my work, it's really fun to like, do you do this in your life? What do you mean? Okay, do you like get a problem and you say like you want to go to McDonald's and you took a left turn and it's wrong and you say like fuck I said I'm not getting McDonald's anymore, or do you say like okay well I guess I took a left turn, I'm on the freeway now but I really want McDonald's? Do you go to a different McDonald's? Do you like circle back around and go to the other McDonald's? Like what do you do? And you're like I go to McDonald's. Like okay, why would this be any different? I don't know. Okay, well if it was the same, what's the next left turn? Yeah, but it's irritating because they turned the wheel. Yeah. Okay, well the fact of the matter is wheel is turned. We're on the 605. We're sitting in traffic. What do you want to do now? It's irritating. Absolutely. Now what are you gonna do? Like, is this feeling gonna be the thing that really takes you down, or your disgust for your player or your teammate that they made this mistake? Is that the thing that's gonna hold you back from winning the game? No. Okay, so like,
I think
what's the next step?
latency, right? Like we would never tell someone, "Oh, you just shouldn't feel upset," or "This shouldn't bother you." It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're going to be bothered, you're going to
Absolutely.
be upset, but it's the latency between when you are aware of your emotion, you allow your emotion to take place, and then you go, "Okay, logical brain, kick back in. What's next?" And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is a practice that you can do outside of the game too. You know, when you have people, maybe it could be like a subculture of like players in an area around the world where it's like there's a lot of over the top reactions to things that don't match what actually happened. You know, like pro player will drop his phone and go, "Oh my god, like my day's ruined." It's like, really?
I'm gonna
I don't
crash
think it's that bad,
out, dude. It's
right? Yeah, exactly.
8:30, dude. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, we just woke up. The day is still young. Or like things that happen in a game, and you go like, "Oh, this guy is inting me. This guy int used to be like actually like running it down versus like he just didn't come mid, right?" So
They
yeah,
just don't want to win, though,
this
Robert. You know, that's what you understand,
yeah,
man.
game is over. Since 2016 to like now, people love to call games over as early as possible. It used to be 40 minutes in, like I think it's GG. I think like the team outscaled. Now it's like in draft, pick one, it's like GG. They pick this, it's over. They can't win. And I think it's you know what would help players entering solo queue, like you said, is to kind of imagine it being uh, take each game on its merits. Um, there there's ample opportunity, I think, for you to like build up the endurance and conditioning to go through solo queue, but I think people only stop when they get to the point where they're already tilted.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, it's like going to the gym and just like hammering out a bunch of leg presses until you can't do anymore. It's like you actually get more out of it if you are to break it up into, okay, let's just work to like 75%. Take a break, 2 minutes, whatever, 90 seconds, 75% again. It's all about like it's like the whole load management. It's the intensity versus reps or volume. So like, okay, if you are constantly working beyond that and getting to the point where you're tilted and playing inefficiently, you're just training yourself to not be very good at recognizing when you should be taking that break. So you, like I said, you want quality reps over volume of reps.
Or it's almost as like, oh, you're practicing failure. So when you go to perform, what do you think you're gonna do? Fail, like then, or like you're
You're
doing
always
the
going to fail.
every time, and then the worst is like you attribute that to I'm bad, a bad player. It's like, okay, maybe, but could it also be that the process of which you're training, you're playing is the problem? Okay, what if we fix that? What if we actually had some intentionality? What if we actually like approach this game with this mindset, or like did these different things to do the things you wanted? How would that be different? So it's so interesting to hear the misattribution sometimes of like what players actually think works versus not doing the things that they're avoiding because it's hard or it's weird or it's uncomfortable to even deal with those emotions to regulate themselves.
Yeah, I like if someone were to approach it with the mindset of I'm just my only goal is to try play as close to 100% as possible. So
Mm.
there is a reality where I play 8 games in a row, and then I'm like I am so tired, I'm so beat, and then I queue up one more game and I go 0-7, but I win, right? And it was not because that I played well or I was in a good condition. I just won because that's solo queue, baby, right?
That's all,
But
dude. That's all,
that's solo queue,
baby.
baby. And like, there's also a universe where I'm at 100%. I'm feeling really good, and then I lose the game. I would still choose the I'm loading into a game as close to 100% as possible. So really, your only job is to try and give yourself the best chance of winning. And if we assume that the variables are like a roulette or a lottery for solo queue, then the only thing I can control is myself. So why would I load into a game where I can't stay awake, or I'm not fully awake, or I'm in a really bad mood, or I'm not focused? I have a thing that I like to call the canary in the cage, where you tell yourself or give yourself something to do after each game of solo queue. It could be we're going to do plank for 60 seconds. We're going to do sit
Oh.
ups. We're going to do squat. We're going to do whatever. We're going to do like stretches because, they're good for us. If you are thinking logically and your executive function is engaged, you will do those things after each game. If you are tilted, you will not do those things and you should not queue. The canary in the cage is the habit. And you might tell yourself, oh, I don't need to stretch. I just, fine. It's okay. Give yourself that thing that you do that requires you to, it might be benign. It's like I don't need to do this. Yes, it's like making your bed in the morning, but this is a test to see if you are tilted or not.
I like that. That's a good one because now we're talking about impulsivity. Now we're talking about cognitive resources because
Yeah,
essentially that's your test. Like, okay, if I have enough cognitive resources to really focus on my win condition for the next game, I should be able to stick to this thing, even if it's consistency, whatever. Like to do that. That's a great intervention. I love that intervention. Actually, that's really sick. Huh.
mm.
I'm gonna try that later. Because I think
I'm
like
going to
so.
tweet that later.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm
I
gonna
gotta
do.
get the copyright out there really fast
I'm gonna do that and make a TikTok after this, bro. But that's
and delete
actually
this VOD so there's no evidence that I ever said it. Smart.
but that's actually really good because that's essentially what you're talking about. Now we're talking like how to prevent tilt queue. You actually set up a system
Yeah,
of an intentionality of like, are you actually getting that thing out of that experience that you want versus like I'm just playing to play and
yeah,
then I'm showing effort and then now I'm just like, what are you actually training? Are you just training playing tilted? Is like that what you're doing, or you're
yeah,
actually trying to get the thing that you actually wanted out? The other thing that I think is really really cool is like, yeah, you all from this conversation. I hope another thing that people are hearing is like you always have control like even when you don't. And if you feel like you don't have any control, listen, you always have control of this. You always are able to shift your perspective or change your perspective or like control how you want to think or what you want to do, even when you don't feel like you can. That is still within your like control. And if you don't think that, that's the first thing that we need to work on, bar none. like you being able to drive your mind forward. Because if you really think about your thoughts, sometimes like you think they're all true because you thought them. Like, but
Mhm.
if you actually really listened to what it's saying, sometimes they're observations that sucked. Sometimes they're just statements. Sometimes they're just other things. What you're thinking isn't always true, but you just think it because you thought it. So sometimes even that is like, well, my brain is thinking this, or
Mhm.
my tilted brain is thinking this. And if you're able to put some more distance between what you thought and where it came from, it does allow you to take a different perspective on what thoughts are coming through too.
I remember the thing I forgot about earlier,
Oh,
and
hell
you
yeah,
helped
dude.
remind me. It was like the difference between cognition and metacognition. So
Ooh.
cognition being like, oh, I think this way. Metacognition is your ability to think about what you're thinking about. So going back to your point that you just spoke about there is like, okay, I have these certain ways of thinking and how I approach practice or how I approach playing the game, and you're reinforcing them every time you play solo queue because you're always going to revert back to your norm or what's comfortable, your instincts.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe fundamentally the way you've been approaching all of your solo queue games is incorrect. Maybe you have one gaping hole, right? So one thing that happens in every game and you're not aware of it either. It's just something that you're doing automatically, and you assume it's correct. Maybe Faker comes and he's like, "Oh, actually, like you shouldn't do this." And you're like, "Oh, but I do it in every single game." He's like, "Nah, this is better." And then suddenly your entire way of viewing the game changes. But people don't ask that question enough, and they also sometimes find it hard to hear that from other people. So like,
Mm-hmm.
I will only hear it from certain coaches, but not all depending on my relationship with said coach or how good I think of a coach he is. I think that I assume again, like maybe in Korea, that players are more open to like coach says, "Hey, we should do this every time we deploy from base." I, a player might say like, "Why?" But they might also just be like, "Okay,
Okay.
I will try to make that
Always.
change always going forward." Whereas that change is maybe more slower or difficult because again, it's all tied into. But this is how I've always done it, right? This is fundamentally something I think has always been true. So yeah, there's that like dissonance between like I really don't think I should change this. I think everyone else needs to change. For teammates, coach, everyone. I think you guys are the ones that are crazy.
They just don't see the genius. They just don't understand. I mean, I think at the same time, like it's really, really important. I think when you start playing something or when you're like new at something, like you then need to take those like structural always. Like you do this, you never do this, like or you pick this, you never pick
Mhm.
this because you need some type of frame of reference. But you can always tell like the level of a player when you ask them, is this good or bad? And they don't say yes or no. They always tell you first, well, it depends. Okay. Well, what do you mean? Well, it depends because what are the factors? Or they ask you different questions about the situation to give you to help them understand it more so they can give you a better informed opinion versus, yeah, that's bad. Don't pick that there. Never pick that. Why? It's just bad. Okay, well, it's never bad. Well, it's never bad. It's bad in certain situations. So really, if you can get to that place of, well, it depends, to be more about the situation. All right, now I know you've thought about this. Now I know that you're applying your cognitive flexibility to the situation or you're getting more information to make a better informed decision versus it's always bad. This is never good. Or this is always
Yeah,
good or
I
whatever.
think the immediacy of which you jump to a conclusion is not necessarily good. It sounds good and it sounds confident. It's
It's
like, oh wow,
uncertain.
like this guy seems really confident. But in actual fact, there are variables that play into it. And then I think once you have, there might be some key variables that trigger like, okay, well, he's got TP, so we always have to do this. Sure, that's fine. But the triggers I think are important because a lot of players don't have them,
Mm-hmm.
right? They just see what's right in front of them, or they see a very shallow version of like the position on the chessboard, for example, instead of the ability to think even one more move ahead. Could be like, yeah, well, you didn't take into account TP status. It's like, ah, yeah, uh, why would that make a difference? Or they go, oh yeah, actually, yeah, my bad. Then it changes my entire interpretation of the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude. I again, I lost track of time, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I looked down, I was like, holy shit, it's almost two. So
It's a long one.
this was super fun. But you know, the what I love from these conversations, especially talking with other psychologists about like these types of systems, not just like in league or like how they work, but it's really cool to see like the way that you thought about or think about games. How do you improve? Like how to insert intentionality, curiosity, the processes and the difference between like solo queue players and pro players, what it takes to get there. Like there's so much in gaming, and the awesome thing is that like game is life, game like life is game. Like they all apply. And from this conversation, really, it's like how intentional do you want to be in where you want to go and how you want to do it, and does it work for you? Because even though it may have worked for somebody else or some coach or someone said this is the way, this is the mindset, I think it's also really important to critically think about like, is that good for me? Or how can I apply this to me to help me improve? So you put your own little twist or you put your own stamp on it to make it your secret sauce, not the secret sauce.
Yeah, everybody obviously wants to copy Chovy, right? Because he's the best player. But I think that you have hundreds and hundreds of players that are like, I'm just going to do what Chovy does. Chovy has this brand new build. I'm just going to copy it. And again, it's about that like understanding and like why they're doing something. So I guess before we finish and stuff, another anecdote from back in the StarCraft days was sometimes players would like they kind of oink around for a bit, and then maybe Pro League would start, and they'd watch a Korean player try out like a build, and then they would go and practice it. Like, oh, let me just that build looked insane. Let me go and play that in on ladder, and then they'd do it, and then they'd lose, and they're like, Korean
Build
mechanics
shit.
are just OP, right? It's just they're just better, built different. But in actual fact, the Korean StarCraft player would be at the team house with an idea of a build, and then he would be practicing it versus like all the Terran players in the house over and over again, stress testing it, finding out where it's weak, where it's strong, where they can be greedy, where they have to play more defensive, what they have to scout for. And then by the time they actually showcase it, it's gone through multiple iterations. It's gone through like they're the master and they know why it works and why it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas me, I'm just copying something. It's a diluted version of what they're trying to distill, and it's never going to be as good because I don't understand. So if you are just copying people and you don't understand why they're doing it, maybe it's very, very specific to them. Maybe they understand it. Maybe they're wrong, right? You're just assuming they're correct. I think you, like you said, I guess the TLDR of the 2 hours now is like, if you're doing something, the intentionality behind it is the most important thing. And if you aren't able to answer, like, so what's the reason behind why you're doing this or not doing something, then don't do it. Take a moment to be like, okay, like, what's the purpose behind this? What am I getting out of it? And does it feed into, like you said, that overarching goal at the end of the day of where you want to be? If it does, great, and you can answer the question of intentionality. And if it doesn't, okay, why are you doing it?
And the full circle anime reference here is what made Kakashi Sensei not like one of the most legendary ninjas wasn't the fact that he could copy things, but he could also implement quickly and understand how to use what he copied against his opponents. Because people think, oh yeah, he's just copycat ninja. That's his thing. He could steal. No, he'd also steal it, but also know how to implement it perfectly and to counter or to attack. Because, like you said, if he didn't know and he just copied it and just used it any kind, like it wouldn't be effective. But he actually knew when, how, where, and why to use his techniques because it wasn't a finger hand signal like thing that he was good at. That was his ninja way, was his brain. Absolutely.
Anime ninja science.
Hell yeah. All right, so before I let you go, man, and shout yourself out, where can people find you if they want to work with the legend himself, Robert Yip? Like, where can they find you? Where can they hook up with you? How can they interface with you, my friend? Where can they get? Shout yourself out, man.
Twitter at Coach Yip YIP, Instagram at Coach Yip YIP, to spell it out. And I guess yeah, they're my main channels. I tweet mostly educational stuff.
Bangers,
Sometimes
by the
some
way.
memes every now and then. Every now and then, it depends.
And if you actually want to learn from the god himself, show up for soccer practice on what, Thursdays?
Oh God, soccer practice Sunday morning, 7:15 a.m.
God damn. Okay, maybe not. But if you wake up early, 7:15, so go find Coach Ship. His tweets are always bangers. I always learn a bunch. Please reach out to him. Please work with him. He's so knowledgeable and he can guide you in the right way to build your processes and systems to get better. So visit his TikToks, or you should make a TikTok, your Instagram and his Twitter, and shout out to Ramon Maui. Thanks, Boom, for checking in. Grizzly Bears, thanks for coming. And also, Nevin Jeff, thanks for coming and hanging out in the chat, my friends. All right, so thanks for queuing up with us. I'll probably be back next week, Monday, playing some League. I got gifted a sick Smolder skin. Thank you. Shout out to Joe Jacko. So I want to try that baby out. But thank you for coming. Please be safe out there. Remember, stronger mental wins. Love ya. Mwah! Bye. Stay there. Hold on.
I'm staying.
You stay put.